Greetings everyone, my name is Corey and this is Astronomy. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about the weather and so let's say the ambiance of what I'm shooting in. Now, it's a little bit windy, uh, even for this type of year, but it's also this time of year where the southern United States really shines and the type of weather and just the overall atmosphere that it can give you. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but the crickets are going. But I recorded a little bit just to make sure you heard some of that. So let's listen to a little bit of crickets, a little bit of southern ambiance. Let's listen to that for a little bit to kind of get you in the mood before we talk about the targets and what we're going to try to shoot on this windy, somewhat chilly, but beautiful soundscape of a night. So I hope you enjoyed that. Um, but I got a problem. My plan for the night was to shoot the Rosette Nebula again because I barely got enough data to make a really any kind of image out of in the last video. But problem is wind's blowing. Wind's blowing hard, and so that greatly reduces, of course, the targets I can look at because the wind's going to be blowing the mounts. So a plan all along was to shoot Andromeda in broadband, just because I'm still waiting on one of my cameras to get back to be astromodded, just because I didn't want to do this one myself. And so all I've got as a second camera is unmodified EOS R. Dog's trying to give me a heart attack. So all I've got as a secondary camera is an unmodified Canon EOS R. So broadband is kind of what I have to go with. So that's what it's been doing, untracked on Skywatcher Star Adventure 2, and seems to be doing fine. I did, I can't remember now, 50, 60, 30-second exposures, and since then I've gone to 60 seconds, and that's just what I've had it sit on. haven't really been comfortable with anything over 60 seconds, mainly because of the wind. So I started on my larger scope, on the Pac-Man Nebula, trying to catch data on that, because I didn't get really anything at all last night, or last video. And I'm not sure how productive that was, just because of tracking issues. I tried to push it, and I'll see. I was just kind of one of those things where I just kind of set it and wasn't thinking about what I was doing. I was half thinking about what I was doing because I was so focused on Andromeda, and getting it centered and everything else, and trying to figure out, make sure I wasn't blowing out the highlights in that. So I just kind of let that sit and run. So we'll see how much usable data I can get from that. And once that kind of got out of comfortable range for me, I transitioned over to the Horsehead and Flame Nebula, and I've had it set on 60-second exposures and tracked. And that seems to be doing okay in the stills that I'm getting off, or the sub exposures I'm getting off. The best I can tell, it seems to be doing as well as I can expect it to do. I'm getting so much error in the tracking that I'm scared to push it anymore. Even though that mount has been very, very good about staying on target when tracking fails. Dogs are all over in the woods doing something. I can't see what they're doing. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. And I'll figure out what once we get to the point where I can actually see the Rosette Nebula. We'll see from there. Right now it's hidden behind the trees, but we'll see. And but so far in the night, what I have gotten seems to be pretty decent data, especially in regards to the untracked mount. I haven't noticed any wobbles. I've paid more close attention to the sub exposures on it. I haven't noticed any major issues on that, and Andromeda has stayed dead center, both before and after meridian flip. So I feel like my polar alignment was dead on, and I feel like the mount seems to be weathering most of the gusts pretty well. But of course I won't know until later on. So we'll keep on keeping on. Right, so I managed to catch the Rosette Nebula just as it was coming up over the trees, and we're going to give it a shot. I've cut it down to 3-minute exposures. The wind seems to die down a little bit compared to where we were at earlier. I'm not entirely sure, but just going to cross our fingers and go with it. And we'll see. This will also be the first time using the ASI Air's auto meridian flip. I've never used it. I've done so much manual before getting the ASI Air. I've never trusted it, but we'll see how it does. So I'm probably going to stay out until Andromeda runs into the house with the the broad spectrum camera that I got shooting. And once that happens, I'm probably going to pack up that little bit of stuff and head in for the night. This we'll see how the auto meridian flip does. I'm nervous about it, but I mean, it's a feature you're stupid not to use, so long as it works right. So it's saying I've got a meridian flip in about 3 hours. I doubt I'll still be awake at that point. If I am, I'll come out and watch it, but we'll see. And hopefully I can get a solid 5, maybe 6 hours on the Rosette Nebula, in addition to the about 2.5 hours that I got last night. All right, so it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't look at the clock exactly, but my fears with the mount were not unfounded. I glanced up or after nodding and looked at the mount at the ASI Air app, and it said it had failed to successfully flip and came outside, and it had twisted itself into a mangled mess, which is exactly what I was afraid of based on how stupid these things can be sometimes. So it 25 minutes later of resetting and unplugging and replugging, and now I've got it back reshooting or shooting the remainder of the night on the Rosette Nebula. So it's going as we speak. But Andromeda has fell below the house, and so I just finished taking my dark and bias frames, and then I'm going to go in the house and take my flats and start the stacking on those pictures. Hopefully those will turn out well. So then after the Andromeda photos, it'll be onto the Rosette, and we'll see how those turned out. And it certainly was a challenging evening. The wind for most of the night just made it very hard to keep everything steady and going. I think after some trial and error at the beginning of the night, I think everything got settled. But of course we won't know until we stack and look at the final picture. I guess we'll see how they turned out. And so after everything is said and done, hopefully we'll have some pics to look at the very least. One of Andromeda, a nice broad spectrum pic of Andromeda, hopefully. And I had that going most of the night, all the way up until a little while ago. And if we're really lucky, a decent picture of the Rosette Nebula, that plus the data that I took last night. And either way, it's nights like these are always great. The night started out so alive with crickets and everything, and as it's cooled off, everything has gotten quieter. And though it's not to the level of that winter stillness that you get, it still is humbling to be able to look up at the stars and wonder what else is out there, as I'm wondering what else is out there as my dog runs off into the distance. Now both dogs run off into the distance. But just looking up at the stars, all the pinpricks of light, all the things, all the possibilities. The universe is so far beyond our scope, so far beyond our understanding, so far beyond our greatest and most terrible imaginations. Everything continues to churn, continues to go on, caring not whether we exist or not. May we one day learn all the wonders there are to behold. Until next time.